Of their city rivals. What a match at the Santiago Bernabeu it looks set to be. According to the bookies, taking a look at this, it is Real Madrid who just favourites going into the tie. A win for Atleti, of course, would put them top of the table and in the driving seat. Luis Garcia is joined by Sid Lowe. Oh, what a treat. Look at them.
From one double act to the next.
On Friday, you look lovely and warm, boys. We'll have a nice long segment on this. And the great thing about this game is that we're not talking about these two teams. We're talking about the blooming referee. Of course, we saw Real Madrid publish that open letter criticising the referee and the federation, everything that's been going on over the last few weeks. And then Tebas, the head of La Liga, responded. Should we take a look at what he had to say before we go into it? Tebas pulling no punches, of course, something that he doesn't normally does. He says, we are going to file a complaint against the club, against those who signed the letter, against the board. We're analysing it for a legal point of view because, of course, this type of letter cannot be tolerated. It contains untruths of half-truths. They're intended to influence issues that cannot be influenced. They have lost their minds. Football doesn't revolve around Real Madrid. Now, Carlo Ancelotti inevitably asked about it ahead of the game, saying, it's something that I'd prefer not to discuss before such an important game, but Tebas can stay calm. Nobody here has lost their minds. We're asked for an explanation of what happened to try and improve things, to try to change the system.
Just ask him, hey, do me a favour. Do me a favour.
Yes.
Ignore it and ask him about the game.
No, I don't. We need to. I have to. We're going to.
Don't.
I know. But it's been such a big story, hasn't it, Sid?
Make it short, Sid.
I mean, it's dominated absolutely everything. The referees dominate things all the time anyway, but with this even more so because of those two. Because of the letter that you've just mentioned, because of Tebas' response, because of Ancelotti's response to Tebas, and also because of Atletico Madrid's response on social media. Atletico Madrid put together what were essentially a set of instructions from a well-known Swedish furniture store of how to set up the perfect derby. Instruction number 1, things like, train your team. Instruction number 2, get the tactics right. Instruction number 3, have a nice massage from the physios before the game to make sure you're ready. And instruction number 4, see if you can mess with the referee's mind by having a go at him on your TV channel. That was their idea of how Real Madrid are going to prepare this. They then did another one in which they said, try and get your friends in the media to express your delirium to everyone else, to spread it out there and to try and make a big thing of it. And here we are making a big thing of it.
Right.
Can we talk about the football? Or,
yeah, let's talk about the football.
Allowed?
That's it. I just wanted that kind of explain. Luis, how does this affect the match tomorrow, and who does it give the advantage to, if anyone?
Actually, I don't think there is advantage to anyone. It's going to be a team. In the moment that the referee whistle, everything is forgotten. The players will be on the task that to do their best, try to win the game. And it will be only the atmosphere that is going to be created, because definitely the only thing that this is changing is how the fans are going to arrive to the pitch, how they are going to push the referee to be the right, because tomorrow it doesn't matter if he's going to make a fault to Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid, everyone is going to whistle to the referee and put pressure on it, because they know that they cannot make any more mistakes. So I don't think that is going to change in the mentality or the way that these players are going to perform, but definitely the referee is going to be under a lot of pressure.
Let's talk.
I was going to ask them about. Can you remember a better time, Luisa said, for Atleti to go to the Bernabeu and
No.
as title challengers with so many injuries, particularly on the back line? They have to try and seize this moment, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the perfect. If you want to face against Real Madrid at some point during the season, you want them now, because definitely when they play at home, they are so dangerous. Even not playing the best way, they always get the results. They always get the things done, because up front they got so much quality. Tomorrow they're going to have it. Of course, Vinicius is going to be there, Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, Rodrigo probably, because Ancelotti he continues being and thinking that having as much as strikers out there, it doesn't have anything to do with the defense. But definitely right now, with the problems they got at the back, with all the problems they got even in transition in the middle of the park, because they are no, even Camavinga is going to be ready, looks like, but it's still a lot of players to have the fight. I think Atletico de Madrid arrived in a fantastic moment into the season, with confidence, with players ready to fight, with a bench that is going to be also ready to make the replacement. We've seen that not even in the cup they make changes, so that means that Simeone is going to try to go for it. But that's the way we think. We always think that Atletico Madrid is going to arrive to the Bernabeu to press, to try to score a goal as soon as possible in the first 20 minutes to put pressure on Real Madrid. And then Simeone decided to have a low block and wait to see what Real Madrid is going to have to do. So we'll have to wait.
Sid, we talked a lot, haven't we, about Real Madrid being rubbish against big teams. They need to prove people wrong tomorrow.
Yeah, they do. And actually, it's a curious one, isn't it? Because one of the things that's happened in recent years is there have been moments in almost all of the last 5, 6, maybe 7 seasons in which we've had doubts about Real Madrid. And then when it's come to the really big games, they've responded. And, that is seen in the way that they keep winning the Champions League. We keep having these moments where we think, they're not there, they're not that good, but they come through against the very biggest teams. Sometimes they come through with a little bit of fortune. Sometimes they come through because they defend very deep and they counter-attack brilliantly. Sometimes they have these epic moments when they come back through late, but in the big games they responded. And what's interesting about this year is it feels different from that point of view. It feels like it's the big games when they don't respond, and it feels like it's the big games that are showing us a reality that maybe those smaller games aren't showing us. That said, when it comes to the really big games, the ones that really matter, like this, like Manchester City in the Champions League, it's difficult not to be conditioned by everything that's happened over these last few years and think they'll get it right. And there was something that Carlo Ancelotti said today which I thought was quite telling in this. He was asked about the way that the midfielders and the forwards press to enable the pressure to be taken off that back four, because it will be a back four, by the way, with at least one midfielder in it, probably 2. And one of the things that happened in midweek, and we saw it, of course, when we were at the game, Leganés against Real Madrid, and Luka Modric had a go at Vinicius for not tracking back. Not once, not twice, 3 times. And post-game, Ancelotti said, if Modric says something, you listen, you respect him, and you do what he says. And he was asked today, can you be sure that you can get that kind of response out of Vinicius now that you're going into these big games? Can you get that pressure all over the pitch and that work rate because it's a big game? And Ancelotti said, yes. Simple as that, yes. And he said, we will do it. It will happen. And then he said, look, people talk about balance, and I could have more balance maybe by taking a forward out and having an extra midfielder. He even said I could take out 1, 2, 3, 4 forwards, but then I won't have a forward line that scores 60 goals. And I think what he trusts is that those guys that maybe don't do this in those normal games, when it comes to it, in the Champions League and in this match, as we've seen many, many times over the last 5 or 6 years, they will.
You played with some big-name players, Kieran. Can you attest to the fact that when it comes to these sort of matches, they will do more for you? We're not only going forward, but tracking back as well.
Well, it's what separates the good players from the great players. I played behind Alexis Sanchez for a couple of seasons, and he worked hard defensively, but you accept the fact that sometimes they might not do as much the other way, but as long as they're producing offensively, you take that all day long. And yeah, I think the Madrid players and the Madrid defenders will know that. They know the firepower that's in front of them, and they will, they have to say to them, look, you guys, we'll try our best to hold the back line, but when the time is right, you need to deliver. Yeah.
It's going to be, Craig, if Real Madrid lose this, it's going to be really interesting.
Which they could.
Very much so. It's a really intriguing time.
But, the thing is, we talk about Atleti maybe seizing the opportunity, being a bit more progressive, maybe squeezing up the field a little bit more. But when you think about the result they got at the Montjuic against Barcelona and the manner in which they got it,
yes,
I think that rubber stamps, if indeed there was any doubt, their approach tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same as it usually is. They're not going to try and leave themselves open. They're going to allow Real Madrid enough possession of the ball. And as the game unfolds, as it usually does, we'll see a flurry of substitutes, generally from Simeone's side, and then a push towards the end. That's kind of how they are. I suspect we won't see them coming out and try and go toe to toe, even though it is a much weakened Real Madrid side. But there is a 3-way fight for the title here.
Yep.
This is a big game, and they're trying to knock Real Madrid off their perch. I suppose when your dad's the manager and you don't want to go home and get an absolute hammering.
How would you have coped if your dad was the manager? I don't know if that would have worked very well, would it?
I don't think my dad would ever have stepped in those shoes for fear of.
Imagine trying to tell Burley what to do.
Although this story, he was an amateur referee and he did book me once.
Yes.
In a school game.
Yeah.
Because I swore at him.
What's that?
He gave me a yellow card.
And then didn't he tell you as well to finish it?
It told me to retire from international football, and of course, generally, when you're getting that kind of advice, they're usually correct.
Yeah, most definitely. Luis, how would you get on coaching your boys? They wouldn't want that. You had them doing the bleep test in the middle of the COVID virus.
I try sometimes, you cannot hold it. I'm not one of those fathers who go to the pitch and start blaming or shouting to the kid, do this or do that. But definitely when they come home and I think that I can help them in some way, I always give a few tips. But they don't like it. They don't like it when I tell them things.
No, it's exactly. It's why Charlie took up the guitar, Sid. He didn't want anything to do with your footballing ways.
Exactly. Because he knew full well I had absolutely no hope of teaching him anything with that. I was just going to keep well out of the way.
Yeah, I think very much for the best. Looking ahead to this game, Sid, what are you expecting from it?
Well, I mean, what Craig was saying about Atletico Madrid's approach, I think there was a glimpse of that today in Simeone in the pre-game press conference. He mentioned 4 times in a really short press conference, Real Madrid have great individuals. And I think what he was effectively saying was, we will do it in a different way because we've developed this kind of collective identity. And then he said that he expected Real Madrid to come at them with those individuals in the first 20 minutes. And he basically implied what Craig's saying, that they would have to weather that storm. They would have to come through that and come out the other side. Now, one of the things that's happened this year, and I think this is probably the key characteristic of Atletico Madrid, is that they've had a huge amount of strength in depth. But I also think they've had a lot of variety in that strength in depth. They've had different types of players they can bring on. And I think we saw that in midweek in the Copa del Rey when Angel Correa came on, scored one and provided the other. Sorloth scored the other. You can see it in the statistics as well. Atletico Madrid have given more minutes to more players off the bench than any other team in Spain. 30% of the goals, in fact 33% of the goals, exactly a third of their goals have been scored by substitutes, and it's different types of players. And I think that in that sense, to speak a little bit to what Craig was talking about, Atletico Madrid would quite like this to be a long game because they believe that that's the way that they come through, and it tends to be that way. Simeone said in midweek, I thought it was very interesting. We asked him post-game, is it difficult to convince players to accept the fact that they're not going to start,